Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this month's office hour. We're going to be talking about ITBM scenario planning. And for those of you who are new to office hours, we do these once or two times a month, if possible, based upon topics you have raised with us customer success advocates in your success check-ins or quarterly success reviews via email, etc. We also too have launched a community site that has the actual links to upcoming office hours as well as previously recorded office hours. So for those who are listening in on this from a recording, definitely if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to one of your success advocates to get some answers around that. We have a wonderful subject matter expert here, Alex, who is going to be walking us through for the first 30 minutes, grounding us in the topic nature around scenario planning. And then for the remaining 30 minutes, the floor is open to you as customers to ask any type of questions that are on your minds to kind of get some good answers to related to that topic. So without further ado, Alex, if you can, do you have your PowerPoint deck? And then you can actually go ahead and take over.
Yes, I can. Yes, I do. Hi, everybody. So let me go ahead and share. So I'll start with the presentation, like Charles said, and then I'll maybe go through some of the material, then answer some questions that may be kind of slide specific right after the presentation, and then I'll just wait and try to answer all other questions as well. I'll start with the presentation, and then I'll give you also a glimpse of what this looks like in the system. So it'll be a quick demo. If questions that come up actually deal with something that needs to be shown, then I'll be more than happy to jump in and show that. So I'll start with basically introducing scenario planning. So scenario planning is an evolution of the portfolio workbench that we had in the product. Historically, we've had it for a few years now. One of the most frequently asked things about the portfolio workbench was being able to not just plan things, but plan things in the context of a scenario. And so we decided to tackle that. And this was, we started this effort late in 2019. And as we kind of undertook this effort, we realized that there are other things in the portfolio workbench that we might want to improve. So instead of just kind of building on top of this legacy code that we had, we came up with a brand new store application. It was released, as you can see, in May of 2020. And this is release 1 of scenario planning. We're actually right now on release 2.1. And so we decided to put some more features, improve it in a few different ways, and call it the scenario planning portfolio workbench. Like I said, the ability to analyze your backlog, the ability to prioritize the work items that you have, and include the ones that are higher priority or maybe don't cost as much in your execution plan within a concept, within the construct of a scenario. That was the main goal of that application. So that was introduced. So each scenario was able to have its own set of projects and demands selected. And also one more thing we did is we also added the ability to budget projects and demands differently from within a scope of a single scenario. So, for example, not only could and I'll show you some of this functionality later, but in addition to just saying I want to work on this demand because it fits within my budget, but this may be higher priority demand I can't work on because it's more expensive than the funds that have been given to me. In addition to making those kinds of choices, we also allowed customers to say, well, I want to pick that higher priority project, but what I'm going to do is I maybe will budget it a little differently. Maybe I won't give it as much money, and have it fit within the funds that I have available. And then, we introduced also replanning, kind of reforecasting abilities there as well. And we also brought up with the tracking capability from the portfolio Workbench. Now, in November, we have released our release 2.0 of scenario planning. And actually, in January, we have had a minor release of 2.1. And this 2.1 that just came out in January is actually going to be part of the Quebec release. So if any of you are upgrading to Quebec, you would get the 2.1 scenario planning automatically out of the box if you'd like to install it, of course. Some of the things that we introduced, and I have more slides that will allow me to talk about it in more detail. So we introduced a lot of things that we didn't have originally in Portfolio Workbench, nor did we have in 1.0 scenario planning. We added the ability to plan for the entire organization at the same time. So that was a frequent ask that, my resources are shared across organization, so I can't really make resource decisions when I look at one particular portfolio. So we have included that ability. Also, we have customers that said, this is a wonderful tool, but we do not plan based on a single fiscal year. So we want something more flexible. So that's the capability added as well. We've also added some usability improvements. We have separated the resources view to kind of be its own tab, as opposed to just a couple of widgets available on the screen. And one other big thing that we did is we've integrated this product with our investment funding application that we have. So I have some slides to kind of illustrate some of these concepts individually. For example, the multi-portfolio organizational planning. You can see here that there's always this dotted line that we have in the middle. So there's always this separation between different scenarios, and there was no ability to look at the big picture, neither in the portfolio Workbench nor in the first release of scenario planning. So what we've done is we've kind of given users the ability to merge the two things together and look at the whole thing holistically. And basically, when you go through scenarios and you select which one you would like to work on and confirm that work, that would be a unified confirmed plan that will be kept for the entire organization. Here I'm illustrating the situation that we have sometimes with fiscal periods. I'm going to put some of these, each one of these red lines basically represent a project. So, or a demand that would eventually become a project. So historically, the only thing that we were able to support, and we still do, so we were not taking any functionality away, but historically, what we were able to support was planning within the scope of a particular fiscal year. So you can see here in this illustration, we have October through September fiscal year. For example, U.S. government, that's the fiscal year that they use. So this fiscal year, when it's used for planning, it is first of all different than a calendar year, and second of all, the way we've handled these selections and prioritization is we said if you're planning for fiscal year 21, for example, then if I select my investments in fiscal year 21, I really just select them for the scope of that fiscal year. For a lot of customers, that's very important to be doing it that way. I have a project maybe that spans 3 different fiscal years. And just because I have the budget to work on that project in 2021 doesn't mean that I will also be funded to continue that work in 2022. So my selecting this project for execution in 2021 simply means that I can work on it in 2021. Now, for some organizations, in addition to having to have a flexible time frame, for instance, that bottom set of brackets, you can see there that they're looking at a 9 months planning period, not a full year. So customers wanted to look at regular Gregorian calendar as opposed to fiscal calendar. So that was, mostly true for customers that, their constraints were mostly based on resources constraints rather than financial constraints. So that was one big ask. Another big ask was, I want more flexible timeline. A third big ask was that philosophy of selection. Customers wanted to make decisions for the entire lifespan of the project, not just for one fiscal year. And a lot of organizations do work that way. That if they choose to work on a project, then they say it's going to be worked on, and we don't fund individual work items, we fund teams, and these people are here, so we're going to continue this work, and for the purpose of selection, it has to be for the entire lifespan. So in 2.0 of scenario planning, we were able to introduce some of these flexibilities to do things this way. Pagination and filtering, pretty simple concept, because we are now dealing with potentially the entire organization's worth of work. Because we're now maybe dealing with not just 1 year, but multiple years worth of work. We get into a situation where customers would easily get into situations where the number of projects and demands that they have to look at to prioritize and make decisions is much higher than it used to be in the past. So it could easily get into hundreds for an organization for multiple years. So for that purpose, we needed to introduce some improvements in how the system is used. So we've introduced pagination. So if you're familiar with how we paginate on ServiceNow lists, where you can say, I want to see maybe 20, 50, 100 things at the same time on the screen. You can make that selection, and you can also scroll through the pages. So we introduced that. And we also introduced filtering. So in this case, you can see this simple filter says that, hey, I first need to work on prioritizing my high and critical priority demands. Let's say I have this much money, and before I look at all the other demands, I need to take care of the critical and high. And then if I have any money left, I can maybe look at other things. So some of those use cases are possible today. Resource-based planning. So we've, as I mentioned, we built a view out of the resource utilization. So now you can look at the longer period. It used to be you would only look at one fiscal year by quarters. Right now it can be done monthly, quarterly. There is some usability that's been added to this screen, and I'll scroll quickly through it because I'll give you a glimpse of what this looks like actually in the system. Most importantly, it's not scrolling for me for some reason. Okay, yeah, there's some sort of a delay. And one important, not most important, but one important addition for us was the integration with investment funding. So in the past, that started with the portfolio Workbench. Back, I believe we introduced it in a Jakarta Kingston release, which was 2017. So in that portfolio Workbench, you could set a target of basically how much money you have been given to distribute to your projects and demands, and that became your financial constraint that you had to be dealing with. Now, with the introduction of investment funding kind of does just that. in investment funding, it doesn't have to be a manual step by a portfolio manager. In investment funding, you could actually receive these funds from your BU, maybe from the CIO, from whoever is funding that portfolio. So if that work is done in investment funding, what we do is we actually added the ability to bring those funds, to bring those numbers right into our scenario planning portfolio workbench, and they would show up instead of the manually selected target. And once again, we have some flexibility there to handle situations where you don't just look at the portfolio organization. So users can specify where in investment funding that information would be coming from. So that concludes my presentation. I want to jump into the system. Maybe Charles, if that's okay, I'll just won't stop for questions now. I'll jump into the system, maybe do a quick demonstration, and then I'll stop and be taking questions.
I think that'll be great, Alex. I don't know if it's me, but your mic was going in and out a little bit there. I don't know if you're moving away from your computer or not, but just kind of know that as you're about to go into the demo.
Oh, let me actually. Oh, you know what? I apologize. Well, you guys, I was actually walking around, maybe 2-3 feet away. But what happened was I have AirPods on, and for some reason.
Yeah, like right now you were.
Yeah, for some reason it switched me. I didn't realize that it switched me to my Mac microphone for microphone, but it was still giving me audio in my AirPods, so I didn't realize that. My apologies. Was everything clear though, or do you want me to go over anything again?
I think for me, at least, it was okay. I wanted to take a brief pause here for the customers that are on the call right now. Did you guys capture everything that he had talked about? Any lingering questions at this stage? Or are you guys all good to go for the actual demonstration now? And I'll take silence as a good yes if you guys feel the same way. Okay. All right, you're good to go, Alex.
Okay, yeah, and once again, my apologies for the audio mishap. So let me jump into the instance. Give me 1 second. Please interrupt me. Let me know if this happens again. I'll actually start with the configuration page real quick, just to show the options that we have in the system. So this is where you would configure how the scenario planning works. So as I mentioned, there are 2 different choices. There's the annual planning that's based on more financial and resource constraint, or you can switch to multi-year flexible calendar that kind of more focuses on resource availability. We have, once again, the single or all portfolio scope, and there's a couple of choices. I don't want to get into too many technical weeds. If there are questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And also we have the checkbox that allows investment fund and integration to take place. I'll switch some of these choices as we go along. I won't go too long in the demo, but I want to show you just how that would affect everything. So I will get into my portfolio planning workbench, which is where most of the work is done. So for purpose of illustration of what I'm trying to show, let me delete this scenario for now. So I'm gonna switch to timeline view. And you can see here that I have a portfolio application modernization. And within this portfolio, I have some projects and demands are selected. I think I only have projects here, but basically it'll be projects and demands possible.
Some are selected and some are not, but you would notice that everything is read-only. So I can't really change this selection because what I'm looking at is a confirmed plan. So if I need to make any adjustments, I would need to actually create a scenario, kind of save a working copy of this plan and do all my work there. Before I do that, I just wanted to show you what's here on the screen. So we have, once again, this main view, which is a timeline view. Here we have all of the projects listed. We'll look at total plan cost, which is how much a project manager has requested, the sum of all the cost plans that they've created. We also look at the CapEx and OpEx budget, which in this case matches the total plan cost. And then we'll look at our performance of budget versus target. So we have a target of $10 million, and the total budget of everything selected is also $10 million. So I am basically right there. I have made the right selections. Now, from here, I can look at some of these widgets that give me more detailed, more precise information about what I'm planning. So for example, here I have 14 items that have been selected. If I click on this, what this is going to do is that it's interactive filters. So some filters are manual, but we also have some interactive automated filters that basically, if I click on this shows me only projects and demands that have been already selected. I can look at the entire benefit amount of what I'm standing to realize from selecting all these projects and demands. I also have this widget. It's called unaligned items. I'm not sure how many of you are using this functionality, but we do have the ability in PPM or in ITBM in general to track strategies and goals for the organization. And we have the ability to tie those strategies and goals to projects and demands. So what this is showing me is that 2 out of the 14 items that I have selected for this portfolio are not aligned to either a strategy or a goal. So this is something that some organizations are beginning to look closely at, that, okay, everything you select or everything you want to invest in has to tie into some sort of strategic initiative from the top. So once again, there's some dynamic filters attached. I can click on that, show me exactly which projects in demand those are. I can look at the actual. So in this simulation, I have $3.9 million worth of actuals across all of my projects. And I also, you can see that there is a zero portion for this orange colored portion of my bar. And what this would represent is sunk costs. Basically, we call it unselected project actuals. But that's if I was maybe working on the project and pull the plug on it, I will free up the money from the budget. So let's say I had a project that I budgeted $800,000 for. Now my funds have been cut short, so I want to I check that project. I want to pull the plug on working on that. So technically, that may free up $800,000 in my budget, but it's kind of like one of those not so fast situations because I may have already spent $300,000 out of $800,000. So just because I'm pulling that $800,000 out of my budget doesn't mean that I'm going to get all of it back. That $300,000 that I spent on that project, they're gone. They're not coming back. So this widget would show that. In this case, nothing that has been unselected has any actuals associated with it. And we also have this over-allocated groups widget, and the details for that are on the resources tab. So you can see here that we have 2 groups, the top 2 architects and analysts. This heat map represents the utilization percentage. So we have the top 2 groups that actually are utilized for at least 1 month above 100%. I can look at this monthly, I can look at this quarterly. I can also drill in and say, show me only over allocated groups. Or what I could do is I could click on this cell and I can say, oh, wait a second, in June of 2021, I'm 116% allocated for the analyst group. I need to see where that usage is coming from. So I would click on that, and we'll have another one of those dynamic filters that would show me that these 3 projects actually contribute to this utilization. So now I know what I should be looking at. So one thing that I want to quickly do is if I need to make any adjustments. So let's say we have a situation where my target has been reduced. So right now I have 7 million in CapEx and 3 million in OpEx. So let's say I have this has been reduced to $6 million. So I'm going to save this, and if I look at my timeline view, you can see that I have this this exclamation point and the red triangle, which basically tells me that I am now over, with $10 million spent, I'm now over my $9 million target. So now I need to make some changes. I need to take some things out of my plan. So I will start by creating a scenario. And when I create a scenario, I can either create a blank with nothing selected, which kind of only applies really for situations where I'm starting to plan from scratch. When I'm replanning an existing scenario, probably wouldn't be used that much. I can also bring in whatever's ongoing from last year, also mostly first time planning scenario, or I can make a copy of my confirmed plan. So I'll do that. I'll make a copy of confirmed plan, and I'll call it scenario 1. And you can see that the copy I got is exactly the same, only it's no longer read-only. I can actually make selections, so I can actually go and say, well, I need to take something out to free up some funds, $1 million in CapEx. So I will say, why don't I take this SAP and ServiceNow integration out? So I will remove this from the plan. And I will also maybe take this Mobicore mobility management out. So I removed those 2 projects from my plan, and you can see here that I'm now well within my target of $9 million. I'm actually even a little lower in anticipation of maybe potential future budget cuts. I do have, however, fewer items that I'll be working on, and you can see that my benefit that I stand to realize has dropped significantly. So it went from $30+ million to 23.7. And also another thing that I see here is now I have $458,000 in those actuals that I cannot recover. And that is because those couple of projects that I've unselected, they had some actuals associated with them. Like for example, Mobicore mobility management had $372 that I already spent. Oh, actually, I'm looking at the wrong column. So let me add my actuals column to my view. So these columns can be added or removed based on the need. But basically I have my actuals column, so you can see that I spent $450,000 on this project and $8,500 on this project. So a couple of projects that I've removed have actually created this situation where, I'm losing some money. So looking at that, I'm thinking, maybe that's not the best solution. So I'm gonna create one more scenario and kind of play around with the numbers a little bit more. So I'll create the scenario 2, and scenario 2. The names are unique, you saw the message there. And now I can either also make a copy of a confirmed plan, or I can kind of do a save as on scenario 1. So I'm gonna say, make me a copy of scenario 1, and I'll take it from there. So now that I have a copy of scenario 1, I will basically say, you know what, this particular Mobicore project, there's a lot of actuals that I'm going to be wasting, in this one as well. So maybe I should find something like, for example, security improvement or something that actually is not going to be wasting any funds, like ML similarity framework. So unselecting this will free up some money, but yet, I haven't started working on that project, so the damage will be minimal. Security improvement, same situation. It's minimal impact on the actuals that I've already spent. So with that, maybe I'll also pull this SAP integration out, because there's very little money. So what I've done here is I've actually removed 3 projects, but I got myself into the situation where I'm spending less money, and my benefit amount that I have is actually more than in the first scenario. So one thing that I can do here is I can say, okay, let me compare the 2 scenarios. So I'm going to click on the compare button. I can see, okay, this is my confirmed plan. These are my scenarios. You can see that it shows me with arrows and percentages how I'm improving. The downside of scenario 2 is that I only have 11 investments, but the upside is that there's a lot more benefit realization, and I don't have this huge amount of wasted actuals. So from here, I can go ahead and click on override, and this would actually replace the plan that I had with the new scenario. So there's some confirmation messages, ability to delete scenarios if I want. So I'll just confirm it like this without doing any of that. And you can see that right now my confirmed plan, my read-only plan, has been updated to match that scenario. Quickly, I'll show you one more thing that we have the ability to do. So if I want to, for instance, create another scenario, and in it, maybe I don't want to, for example, DevOps integration with Jira. Maybe I don't want to pull the plug on this project, but maybe I just want to reduce the amount of money invested in it and keep it, and maybe pass some of the work to the following year. So I can click on this, and I can say, this project requires me to invest 782,000 plus change into this project. So maybe I can only afford to do $500,000 in CapEx. So I'm going to save it. You can see the reduction is here. I do get a warning that I'm not really funding it all the way, but that's okay, because that may be something that the business logic is requiring me to do. So this is the main flow. Once again, you can see here that I have a selection of what portfolio I'm working on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to all portfolios real quick. Just do a quick simulation. This is telling me that my working scenarios are going to be lost. So because the scenarios have a scope. So I'm going to consent to that. And now if I go into my portfolio planning workbench, you can see that it's welcoming me. It wants me to actually set a target, because I didn't do that yet. So I'm going to say, maybe $10 million for CapEx and $5 million for OpEx, for $15 million total. So I'm going to save that. It does show me confirmed plan. It basically took all of the confirmed plans and joined them together, but you can see here that the portfolio selection is no longer changeable. It's now static to be looking at the entire organization. And instead of having 18 items that I had before, I have 56 to work with. And one more thing quickly I'll show is the ability to look at multi-year planning. So I'm going to switch back maybe to single portfolio. I'm going to switch to multi-year. So what this is going to ask me, and this is only default selection, is how big do I want my planning window to be? This list is actually configurable. So I want to say, you know what, I want my planning window to be maybe 6 months. So I want to plan 6 month intervals. So once I update that, I get a warning that it's actually going to remove all my confirmed plans, in addition to all of the to all of the scenarios. Let's say I'm okay with that. And I'm gonna create, go into Portfolio Workbench. And you can see here that I'm actually looking at the 6 months worth of time. So I don't have anything selected. So there's no resource utilization, but I'm looking at 6 months. And I am also, you know, when I look at, you know, plan costs, it shows me plan costs for the entire duration. And because I'm not attached to a specific budget, you know, there's no target to be working with. And here, by default, it's going to start it with the current months, but I can change that selection. Let's say I want to start 6 months planning from April. So it's going to shift my timeline to go from April to September, or I can, you know, change it to go from April to December to keep the rest of the year. So these are some of the options. So I think I'm gonna stop for any questions that you may have.
Yeah, Alex.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Go ahead.
Just a quick question for me. Under the overview pane, you had called those widgets like the total plan cost, selected items, benefit amount. Can we change those? Or is there like a library of widgets that we could add there?
So we pretty much have added everything we have at this point. So you do have the ability to remove a widget if you don't have any use for it. Like, for example, one of the widgets, you know, unaligned items, right? You know, a lot of customers, well, some customers, you know, don't use any kind of relationship with strategies and goals. So for them, it's kind of widget that will always be zero, would always actually equal number of selected items because all are going to be underlined. So we do give you ability to remove widgets, but we haven't come up with a library of additional ones yet.
Could we build our own?
I am actually not sure. I think you know, unless the code is compiled in some place, which it may be, I think it's probably configurable. But I would have to get back to you on that.
I mean, not important. I just wasn't sure if there was like an easy, you know, wizard that we could just build a quick widget. But if that's not the case, then I doubt we'd want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, building the widget, you know, the graphical portion of the work is probably the easy part. What may be somewhat difficult is there is some data fetching that happens for the entire workbench. So what it does, it actually goes and it gets all the data elements that it knows it will need to display certain things. And then once they're there in the memory of your browser, it actually places them where you would have any use for them. So you would need to actually tie the two together. So that may be the difficult part there, potentially.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah, Alex, this is Jonah Pasic. So we've been looking at scenario planning with one of our PPMs who's also on the line, one of our PMs. And one of the things that we've been struggling with moving to scenario planning is that the old project workbench really you could get a lot of details about the resources on it. So you could get down to the individual level and see what the changes are for that individual as you're toggling on and off projects. But with scenario planning, it's one or the other, right? You can't have them both live together. You've got to disable project workbench or portfolio workbench to use scenario planning.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct.
So is there any way to look at resources at an individual level? I know there's that group drop down, but there's no other options on it. So if you go to the resource tab, it's like you can only look at groups.
Right at this point, yeah, that's we have. I mean, we definitely, it's definitely a roadmap item for us. It's in our backlog, but we haven't been able to configure. I would say that there's only a couple of places where, because we've really built this from scratch.
Right.
So it wasn't built on top of Portfolio Workbench.
Is there any one of the reasons? I'm sorry. If we did want to move to scenario planning, is there another Workbench or something that we would be able to get to that level since we're turning portfolio Workbench off?
Yeah, I think there's resource manager Workbench. So that's a domain of another product management manager. I think it's resource allocation Workbench. So I wouldn't be able to give a good tour of that, but that would possibly be the place to go. I mean, it's may or may not give you the same information.
But that is on the roadmap for some future release.
It is on a roadmap, so we definitely want to bring all of it together. And you know, one of the things that we also have in our roadmap is that we're working on is what we call alignment planner workspace, which will actually bring a lot of things together, including scenario planning, resource planning, and some of the slick visualizations. But that's you know, fortunately not there yet.
Yep.
To that one.
All right, thanks.
Good questions there. Any other questions from the crowd? I definitely have to say, Alex, the mic was a lot better this time going through the demo. So there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, my apologies for the first portion there. I didn't realize that you know, it's kind of like an assumption that I made that since I'm hearing everything in my AirPods, then the microphone must be also connected to AirPods, and that it rarely happens that it's that type of.
No worries. All right, team. Any questions from the crowd? You guys feel free to either type them into the chat window or ask them flat out. Okay. I think we have a good understanding then. Are there any best practices or tips, Alex, that you would suggest for the crowd to kind of areas that they can go to learn a lot more about scenario planning? Like, I know that there's the ITBM community page. We could put a link for that as well. And then also too, are there any areas like in Now Create, Now Learning, and anything like that you might want to suggest?
So we've included you know, some basic information, some basic concept of scenario planning in the latest class, PPM class. So we definitely so that definitely would give you basic understanding of the components and what to do here. We also I know there's some press releases here. There's some videos out there available from our marketing team that walk through what's new and some of the functionality. We are looking to kind of potentially go a little deeper in future training classes, maybe add some of the advanced use cases, walk customers through those. One thing that I would maybe encourage customers to do, and that's the kind of conversation that I have sometimes with customers is, because switching between different ways of doing things, that this configuration screen to configure. So this configuration screen, there's a lot of different options of how this can be used. So I would encourage customers, if they're not sure which is the right strategy for them, to go in and maybe in a sub-prod environment, switch back and forth and see which one works best for them. Just because once you roll this out, it'll be a lot because of the differences in data models. Some things we have to remove, like scenarios, and sometimes even your confirmed plans. It will be more difficult to do once you're up and running there. So that's one thing that I would recommend for sure. I'm not sure what you know, a couple of other like frequently asked questions, I guess. If you are using Portfolio Workbench currently, we actually have a graceful upgrade process. So if you you won't get any scenarios after you upgrade, but if you do have a plan that you've been managing through Portfolio Workbench, and you want to start using scenario planning, there's going to be complete continuity of your work. So you would just switch to scenario planning, and you would be able to continue to manage that plan. If it hasn't been confirmed, it will actually show up as a scenario and not a confirmed plan. So we upgrade very gracefully. Try and think. There's a couple other things that I didn't show. For example, there's a tracking page. So well, I can track. Well, my plan is still in progress here. So I need to confirm things to track. But basically, we've added full redac view capability in the tracking page. So some of the things that customers do ask me about.
Great. Well, that's very good information and very good advice as well, especially around the subprod. So I definitely thank you. Customers, before you guys head out, I do want to launch a poll just to kind of get some quick feedback from you guys about this office hour. So if you can, before you head out, go ahead and fill out that information. It'd be great. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Alex, for walking us through this, especially the demonstration. The recording will be available on the community site within the next couple of weeks. I will send out the Zoom recording as soon as it's made. Feel free to sign up for the other office hours as well. And we will be providing a PDF copy of the PowerPoint deck to those who have been on the call via email shortly thereafter. So thank you guys so much. Take care and have a wonderful Friday/weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.